Welcome back to Sports Hop. It is on and popping. It's your boy Mack B, episode 34. We are all the way official. I'm in the building. Shout out to my man Solomon, also in the building. We're going to start out west. Shout out to the Don Mega, Mr. Ice Cube himself. And I got to give Ice Cube major props and big time respect. Not only for founding the Big Three in 2017 with Jeff Quantinetz, but just growing the brand, getting contracted through CBS, nationally televised games, expanding the league. Currently, it's 12 teams. They just are going to do direct markets. That's been announced starting in 2025. You've got direct markets in Miami, Detroit, LA. I love what the Big Three are doing in the direction that they're moving. And 3-on-3 fireball, right? You know, the rules are a little bit different. You can trash talk in the Big Three without getting pushback from the officials. You know, they definitely have a 4-point shot. They got a 3-point shot. Defense is really stressed and a key element of the league. Clyde Drexler, by the way, the first black commissioner of the league. Shout out to him as well, a Portland Trailblazer and a Houston Rocket legend. Shout out to Clyde the Glide. I remember him back in the day when I was real little, watching him do his thing. But I really want to give Ice Cube some big time love and respect. The Big Three is here to stay. They're growing. I love what they're doing. I love the direction that they're going in. I've watched a lot of the games, and I think they're entertaining. And I think Cube is onto something. And many people doubted Ice Cube early on, but you can't doubt a businessman, especially a big-time mogul like Ice Cube, who's well known in the industry for his movies and his music career. Who can forget the great NWA? You know what time it is. So I've always been a big fan of you, Cube, and I love what you're doing in the sports world, developing the league, leading by example, and also showcasing some athletes that may have been viewed as being washed up, right, by the NBA, and giving these players some renowned life, in the Big Three league, and giving them some revigoration and revitalization, where they can go and play the game that they've always loved to play, and they can still play at a high level. But one of the biggest things I want to give Cube respect on is him actually just having the determination and the integrity and the balls, really, just to offer a $5 million deal to Caitlan Clark to come and play. A 2-year deal actually totaled at $10 million, $5 million per year. But I love what Cube did. I mean, it didn't happen, but I just love the fact that he's just a no-nonsense kind of guy. And he said, you know what? Let's bring some additional excitement to the league, to the platform. Let's offer Caitlan Clark, who is an outstanding player, the ability to come on and play in the Big Three. It didn't happen, but talk to me, Solomon, in terms of the development of the league, Ice Cube and his vision and what he's been able to accomplish thus far. What are your thoughts? Because I love what's going on with the league.
Well, I love it as well. Anytime you can see something grow through consistency, and you know how it is. How many football teams or football leagues have come and gone?
Yeah.
And so you've got this guy who had this idea, and he started with his celebrity, and then he started with the idea that people still want to see their favorite players play, and that was the whole thing behind it. Now you're doing 3-on-3 basketball, so obviously not as physical, not as demanding on older players.
Right.
It makes it a perfect thing. But the thing is, they originally started it like a traveling circus, right? All the teams are together, like a Harlem Globetrotters, where you go from city to city. And I think that was the right move initially, because that concentrated the fan base. It really helped get all the media focused in one place. And plus, you've got these smaller teams, and it has slowly gone from people being sort of like celebrity coaches and things like that to now actual real taking it seriously coaching and players. And so you love that. Now, that being said, now going into a format where each team is being represented by a city, that is a huge move. And it had to be something that had to be sort of predicated by some big money deals and some
Right.
things in the background that people say, well, we're going to support it. But it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to garner individual fan bases. I don't know exactly how that travel is going to go. If
Right.
the whole league is going to go to one city and then that city is going to play host or whatever. I don't know how that works. But, can you imagine these teams, going from city to city and all of that? I mean, that's going to be sort of crazy.
Right.
So, it's a big risk how they're doing that. But, if they're able to pull that off, that would be a pretty big thing. The other thing, too, the fact that they're opening it up to players who aren't necessarily making it in the G League or players who are too old or European players or whatever. If they started to bring over European players who were like home favorites and then retired, came over here to play Big Three, continue their career in an American market, that'd be pretty magical as well. So, best of luck. I mean, there's some chances to be taken here, but Ice Cube's a smart guy, like you said, and I think he'll get it done.
Yeah, well said, and I concur. And the first purchase of these home-based teams, one being here in LA,
Of course,
for
yeah.
$10 million. You got Houston, Detroit, Miami. He's growing the league, him and his business partner Jeff, and I love what they've been able to do thus far. And from an entertainment value, it's gravitated towards the fan base. I mean, most of the games are sold out or close to sold out, and they have been, on the move, playing in different cities. But it's been a great way to brand and kind of market the league as a whole. And nothing but big time respect and love to Ice Cube. I love what you're doing, Cube. I definitely would love to bring you on the show so we can talk further about this movement, because I wholeheartedly believe in what you're doing. And the Big Three's got a bright future. They're not going anywhere. Not to mention the fact that, he's employing athletes that may not have had a source of income. After their playing days were over in the NBA, he's creating jobs. He's creating opportunities in these communities. So I really respect the movement. I really respect what Cube is doing. Not to mention, a lot of people don't know about the Young Three, which is a youth-initiated program for underprivileged kids across America and underserved communities. They work collectively hand in hand with the Boys and Girls Club of America. So Cube is not only providing a platform and opportunities financially in terms of community development for kids, but also for older athletes who can still play the game at a high level. So nothing but love and respect to the Big Three. Shout out to my man Tattoo as well, who's involved with that league and working with Ice Cube. So it's on and popping. I think you guys got a bright future, and I'd love to chop it up with you more about it. Now, with that being said, moving on, we're going to shift gears. We're going to still stay in LA, but we're going to go to Vegas, right? Because that's where the NBA Summer League is popping off. And speaking of popping off, shout out to Bronny James. The Lakers won their first Summer League game yesterday, outlasting the Hawks. I believe it was 87-86 was the final score. So the Lakers won the game. Bronny James had 12 points. He went 5 of 11 from the field. He had 9 points in the first half, 2 for 5 from beyond the three-point arc. Remember, Solomon, we talked about this on a previous show where he was 0 for 15 in Summer League play.
Yeah.
And many people were kind of on the radar criticizing Bronny. He's under an immense amount of pressure. So I love what he's doing defensively. Not too many people are talking about that on that end of the floor. But I've really been impressed with his defensive game and how he's kind of, making his presence felt on the floor. He still needs to develop his shot, which will come in time. He's still got to establish more girth up under him. I mean, he's going to get bigger and stronger. Remember, the kid is only 19 years of age. But there's such a lot of expectations because of the name, because of the bloodline. Everybody thinks that Bronny's going to come in and just take over the league like his daddy did 20 plus years ago, and it doesn't always happen like that. So we got to have a level of patience with Bronny. He is a future star. I think he'll be a key contributor coming off the bench for years to come. I think he has the ability, if he can work on his shot and his offensive game, he eventually could become a starter in the NBA, but it's not going to happen right now. And he was the 55th pick in the draft for a reason. I do believe he's a special talent. He's got room to grow. Currently, he's averaging about 4.3 points per game, only shooting about 22.5% from the field. Now, those numbers are going to go up a little bit based on last night's performance. But give me your overall perspective on Bronny and what he's done thus far in Summer League, and also how he's handled the amount of pressure that he faces.
Well, I'll start with the last one first. He's handled it magnificently. If there's one thing his father has taught him is how to handle pressure. And think about it. He's been handling this his whole life. It hasn't just started now.
Yeah.
This was, when he first went to the playground, everybody was looking to see if he was going to pick up a basketball. That's how long this has been going on, right? With a father like LeBron James.
He came out the womb with a ball, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's always been that expectation of him. So from that perspective, I applaud him absolutely. I have full faith in him. Now, that being said, my personal opinion of him is I feel like there are lots of guys as good as Bronny James, right?
Right.
And any one of those guys could develop into a decent NBA player. Now, the thing is, Bronny James has been given the opportunity because of who he is. So it doesn't make him a bad player. It gives him a fast track to develop where some of these other guys might not have gotten that opportunity. So, but keep in mind, people keep looking at these Summer League stats. Remember Victor Wembanyama's first game last year? People thought he was a bust after game one. He was Rookie of the Year. It doesn't say a lot. And think about what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a team where everybody is trying to make the team, so nobody is playing a role. There are no role players on there. Everyone's trying to score. Everyone's trying to stand out. So that means you're not going to get concentrated defense. You're not going to get a lot of set plays. It's sort of an every man for himself in this loose type of format. Not everybody shines that way. So I don't think this is representative of the true game that he has. Once he gets into a solid system where everybody understands their role and he has a role of his own to play, and he knows the plays and everything's expected, and it's just sort of, they have this standard way of doing things, then I think that's where we'll see him shine. We'll see him get more comfortable in his shot, and get more comfortable in his spacing on the floor. And keep in mind, he's got LeBron James in his ear every day, saying, here's how you can get better. Work on this. I saw you did this. Try this. You're going to see his talent grow exponentially just because of that alone. Because not only is LeBron James going to give him, that knowledge, he's also going to give him that work ethic as well. So I still have high hopes for him. I do believe the G League is a good spot for him to grow. They do have set offenses and stuff in the G League, and I imagine they mirror what the Lakers are. So if they pull these guys up, these guys are able to step in and make an impact if given that opportunity. So I'm still rooting for him.
Right. And he's got room to grow. It's early. He's got a long career ahead of him. I hope that he stays healthy. But I'm excited, and I'm sure that LeBron is excited. The first time in NBA history, right, where a father and son duo are going to have an opportunity to play together at some point in time. So I think that's going to be fascinating to watch, and I can't wait to see it. Speaking of being fascinating to watch, we're going to pivot to the WNBA. Shout out to the ladies who are balling, doing what they do in the WNBA. Recently, media rights shares have gone up for the league, right? So, it was previously at $60 million. Now, $2.2 billion allocated to the WNBA over the next 11 years. Keep in mind, for those watching the show, the NBA owns about 60% of the league regarding the WNBA. So a lot of these things and these changes and this progress is due to the growth and the development of the league through the draft and the Caitlan Clarks of the world and the Angel Reeses and the Aja Wilsons and the Sabrina Ionescu's and the Diana Taurasi's and everybody who's been putting in work, whether you're a rookie or you have some veteran experience under your belt. The WNBA is growing. It is definitely becoming a more competitive, a more watched league, even more respected around the country. I've always had an interest in it, but I'm not going to front. I have an interest that's been piqued this year in particular with the rookie class coming in. But I love the competitive nature of the league. The TV deals, the revenue is going up. The value of the franchises is elevating. Caitlan Clark and these other players have a lot to do with that. With that being said, it's an exciting time, because you've got teams that are more competitive because of the acquisitions of talent, like an Angel Reese, like a Caitlan Clark. Shout out to the Fever and to the Chicago Sky. And you've got teams like the Liberty and teams like the Vegas Aces, right, who've already won back-to-back titles, trying to make it 3 in a row. So it's going to be interesting. We're kind of past the halfway point of the season, going into the All-Star break for the WNBA. So I'm interested to see the second half of the year. How's it all going to unfold? Can the Fever make the playoffs and under Caitlan Clark's leadership and Aaliyah Boston? I mean, I'm excited to see what they do. The Chicago Sky, can they hang on to a 7th or an 8th spot? So there's a lot of basketball left to be played. Give me your take on the growth of the WNBA and where it's headed, particularly with this new TV deal that they got going.
Yeah, the TV deal is very cool. I mean, it increases the value over 3 times, from $60 million a year annually to over $200 million, and there's potentially room for another $60 million with additional deals. But I mean, I think the WNBA is pretty exciting. Whenever you have a league with a fewer number of teams, the playoff scenario is always going to be different. It's not about leagues and divisions and all. It's the 8 best teams going at it. They get seeded and they go at it in a 1-game elimination tournament. So I think, that leaves room for anybody to win, which I think creates excitement. But let's be real. I mean, when, we think about LA, right? And you think about the growth of when they had the Staples Center and the resurgence of Los Angeles and all of that, a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Lakers were a great team at that time. You had Shaq and Kobe and they were winning. And I always tell people those guys should have been getting checks from the city like every year for the rest of their lives, because they were responsible for growing downtown Los Angeles to what it used to be. And in that same respect, right now, this fascination with Caitlan Clark has done that for the WNBA. Now, granted, it has had a foundation in great, solid play from quality, high impact players, but sometimes you just need that spark that really brings the world's attention to it. And I think that's what she's brought to this. And so now you're starting to see, as a result of all of this movement, these deals and things being made, these high profile things being made, and it's a continuous wave, right? Because the media talks about it, then more things come in, and then you start getting more sponsorships for other players, and other people start to make the spotlight. So it starts with something. I'm not going to get into all of this, who versus whatever. Some players are more marketable than others. It's simple as that. And she's marketable, and so she is the spark for a lot of what's happening in the WNBA. But I think finally we're going to get to the point where we start to see growth, we start to see legitimate fan bases, and we start to see some separation from the NBA, not necessarily maybe in terms of money or whatever, but in terms of people's appreciation for the game of basketball on the women's side. So I'm looking forward to that. Right.
Very good point. I agree completely with you. And we're going to stick to the WNBA and shout out to Caitlan Clark. And I can't say enough. I mean, breaking records all the time, right? 19 assists, even though they came up short against the Dallas Wings. The Fever didn't end up getting the dub, but Caitlan Clark had 24 points, 19 assists. First time in WNBA history, the most assists in a single season game. So props to Caitlan Clark. She just keeps reinforcing her position. She just keeps re-energizing the league, keeps showing us that she is the Rookie of the Year. She is a generational talent. We already know all that, right? But she never ceases to amaze. I never thought I'd see 19 assists out of Caitlan Clark in a game this year. I thought I'd see 30, 40 points, which has happened. And she's been pretty consistent with her scoring. She wasn't really hitting the 3-ball in the game last night. Struggled from beyond the arc. Only made 2 of her 3-point attempts, but at the end of the day, she did have 19 assists. She did have 24 points. She was a major contributor on the floor for the Fever. And keep in mind, this year, some stats to mention worth mentioning. Caitlan Clark has scored or assisted on 915 points and 213 assists. The second rookie in WNBA history to score or assist on 50 points in multiple games. So I love what she's doing. She's also scored or assisted on 66 points and 1 regular season game, which is what she did last night against the Wings and establishing that record. So she's a major, major factor on the floor. And a lot of people have to take into consideration when it comes to Rookie of the Year, because Angel Reese is having a great year. Caitlan Clark is having a phenomenal season. But no one player is under the level of pressure and expectations more than Caitlan Clark. Regardless of no matter how you slice it, Caitlan Clark faces the most pressure, the highest level of expectations. She's class personified. She's handled herself as a professional. She's been balling like nobody else. And I love what she's doing, not only as a scorer, but as a leader on the floor, as a facilitator. So hands down, I think Caitlan Clark is Rookie of the Year, barring injury. I think she's pretty much wrapped it up in my book. Taking nothing away from Angel Reese, who's a great player. I just like what Caitlan Clark is doing in terms of being a facilitator, making her teammates better on the floor, creating opportunity for easy baskets for them to score. So it's not just about her getting to the basket. It's about creating opportunity for her teammates and making the team overall more competitive. And I really like the direction of not only the Fever, but what Caitlan Clark has been able to do in her young career. Solomon, talk to me about the Caitlan Clark scenario and all of this hype surrounding her. And what are your thoughts in terms of her position, in terms of Rookie of the Year as of now?
Well, I told you last time we talked that I thought, Angel Reese still had a good shot at it.
Okay.
Now, I will still say this. Granted, she makes other players better, but a lot of that comes by the nature of her position. It is her job as a point guard to catch people in their spots, hit them at the right places. Whereas Angel Reese, it is her job primarily to be, sort of the number one person who gets the ball and then gives her the ability to pass out. But it's also her responsibility to be the finisher under the rim, and she does that very, very well. And so it's hard to judge them sort of, next to each other. It's a little bit of an apples and oranges scenario. I think they do different things on the floor. They both impact their teams in a positive way. I still think it's up for grabs. I mean, obviously, Caitlan Clark has the bigger spotlight right now. Her team is, granted their last 10, I think they're 5-5 still. They've sort of slowed down a little bit, but they have moved into playoff position. I mean, is that saying a lot at 11-17, I believe?
Right.
Something like that. But the WNBA this year is interesting because you've got 5 good teams and then everybody else is below 500, it seems like. But,
right.
As long as you make the playoffs, you've got a shot. So I still think it's up for grabs. I understand what you're saying with Caitlan Clark. I still think it's up for grabs. So maybe it'll clarify, as we get a little bit closer to that deadline.
Well said. I mean, definitely there's still a lot of basketball left to be played. So we're going to see how it plays out, but at the end of the day, shout out to all the ladies in the WNBA. And speaking of all the ladies in the WNBA, there's a huge discrepancy when it comes to the salaries, right, associated with the ladies versus the NBA players. And certainly the average salary right now as we speak for the WNBA is about $102,000 a year. And the average rookie contract for an NBA player is $10 million. Caitlan Clark, who was the number 1 pick, is going to make $78,000 this season. But remember, she's securing the bag off the court with endorsement deals, estimated value to be about $28 million. So I'm not mad at Caitlan or Aaliyah Boston or Angel Reese or Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Arike as well. These ladies now have more opportunities to get endorsement deals off the court and make additional money. And certainly it would behoove them to do so. So I do think that the WNBA and women's sports as a whole do a great job of uplifting their female athletes. But I do think they need to work on that. They need to recognize the value of these lady athletes. I think they need and deserve to be paid much more than what they're getting right now, because not every player in the WNBA has the endorsement deals that Caitlan Clark has. And Caitlan Clark certainly has earned the right to get the bag at $28 million. She's worth every penny in terms of being a celebrity endorser. I love what they're doing and the opportunities and the doors that have been opened, not only for her, but these other ladies in the WNBA. But certainly the league is growing. The TV revenue is growing. The franchise value is growing. So Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlan Clark, Asia Wilson, Aaliyah Boston, props to all you ladies. I hope that you continue to get the bag. You continue to work hard, continued success in what you're doing. But there is a big, difference with the overall salary and the numbers associated with the ladies in the WNBA versus the NBA, especially when the NBA owns 60% of the league. So I think they need to do a better job of compensating these lady athletes and giving them, what they're worth, because a lot of these players are worth a lot more than what they're getting paid right now. Talk to me, Solomon. Tap in. What are your thoughts on this whole process with the WNBA and the NBA and the huge difference in pay?
Well, there was a stat a couple of years ago that basically said LeBron James by himself made more than the entire salary of the WNBA combined. And I think a couple of years before that, it said there were at least 50 players in the NBA who made more than the entire WNBA combined. So that is saying something. Now, here's the thing. We've been hearing and we've heard, well, you know what? The league needs to make money because that's how, it determines how the players are paid. Now, you can take that approach, and I'm sure the women have heard that quite a bit. But here's the other side of that. The NBA has subsidized the league. And there's no reason they couldn't continue, especially as the league is growing, and start subsidizing some salaries and to get these women at a higher thing, especially because you're seeing this upward trajectory of things going on in the league with the TV deals,
right,
with the fan base and everything else. I think it would be a positive change from a PR perspective for people to see that the NBA is enabling women to make more money, doing the same thing that men do. And granted, maybe the league's not there yet in terms of its revenue, but the fact that you are willing to subsidize this league for all these years, why not now take that next step and subsidize some salaries and really get the women who play hard up to a place where they belong.
Right. Well said. And hopefully things will change for the better. The league is definitely going in the right direction. So shout out to all the ladies in the WNBA making things happen. And speaking of making things happen, we're going to go to the city of Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, where the Raiders are currently holding training camp. And recently, Devante Adams, one of the best receivers in the league, definitely the number one receiver in my book in the NFL. He recently went on the Club Shay Shay podcast. Shout out to my man Shannon Sharp doing his thing in the media world. But he recently went on to Shannon Sharp's podcast and was talking about his tenure with Green Bay and his relationship with Aaron Rodgers and where he stands currently, with the Raiders, because there was a level of frustration last year early on when Jimmy Garoppolo was under center, very inconsistent, a lot of balls that were overthrown, putting Devante Adams in unfortunate situations where he could get seriously hurt. And thank goodness he didn't. They made a change at quarterback and went with Aiden O'Connell, who's a young player. The Raiders defensively last year were top 3 in the league, particularly with Antonio Pierce coming in. I think they got the right coach. I think defensively they're in a good place. My biggest concern pertaining to Devante Adams is I don't feel like they throw the football enough to his side of the field. I think they need to utilize him more as a deep threat. I think they need to work on their offensive schemes. Whoever's calling the plays over there in Vegas, I think they need to step it up and definitely don't forget who you got on the side of the field on your team. You got the top dog, the number one receiver in the NFL. So I think the Raiders need to do a better job of utilizing Devante Adams. I think this season, if things don't go in the right direction for Vegas and the Raiders are struggling coming out the gate, maybe towards the halfway point, Devante Adams may want out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in New York. There's a lot of talk and a lot of speculation going around that he wants to be traded. I'm not quoting Devante saying that he does. I'm just saying I know he wants to win. And he is a phenomenal player, and somebody with that caliber of talent deserves to get not only the bag, which he already has, but to get a chance to host that Lombardi Trophy, right? And win the whole thing. So I think Devante Adams is a generational talent at wide receiver. You can double coverage him. He can still escape and catch the football. He can stretch the field. He's definitely one of the best receivers in the league. So I think the Raiders need to focus more on getting him more targets. Certainly, in terms of the Raiders quarterback situation, you got Gardner Minshew, a journeyman, right, around the league. He's traveled and played with the Jaguars. He's played with Indianapolis with the Colts, and now he's in Vegas competing against Aiden O'Connell for a starting position. I like Minshew, Solomon, in terms of what he's been able to do in the league. He has more experience. He can move around a little bit. And keep in mind, in 49 games, Gardner Minshew has thrown 54 touchdowns, and he's only thrown 24 picks. 59 touchdowns and 24 picks. And you got Trevor Lawrence, who's played in 50 games in his Jacksonville career, and he's thrown for 58 touchdowns, but he's got 39 interceptions. So a lot of things can be very revealing when you look at stats, when you look on the surface of all the hype and Lawrence coming out as a top pick in the draft. He's still a great quarterback, but what I'm trying to say is one player is a former Jaguar. The other one is still with the team as a starter and a very popular QB in the NFL, very well respected, a very talented player. But Gardner Minshew actually has better numbers over the same amount of time as Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't have the hype. He doesn't have the hoopla, but Gardner Minshew, I think, will give the Raiders the best chance to win when he gets into Vegas and competes for that starting position against Aiden O'Connell. What are your thoughts on the quarterback situation in Vegas and Devante Adams as well with that situation? What do you think is going to be the outcome before the year's over?
Well, I'll start with Devante Adams. Now, he needs to be a little bit careful because he's 31 years old and he's at that age where, when you get these receivers who start complaining about things or just sort of implying maybe I want to be traded, stuff like that, the league doesn't put up with that stuff anymore the way they used to. Think about Terrell Lawrence, think about Chad Ochocinco, these guys who became very, very outspoken, the Michael Crabtrees of the world, and teams cut loose from them because they just don't want the distraction anymore. So he needs to be very careful. I mean, he was sort of, quoted as saying, well, I'm locked in with the Raiders, but, if there was ever an opportunity, to reunite with something, it would be Aaron Rodgers. I think those aren't the things you should be saying when you're 31 years old, because there are lots of young, hungry receivers coming up who want to basically take on that role of being that top dog, and teams will give them that opportunity, we've seen this happen with running backs. I mean, there's just not a running back market anymore. I mean, the next guy out of college is the next guy who's starting. It just seems to be that way. So that's number one. Number two, I think I agree with you in talking about who is better to lead the Raiders right now. I think Gardner Minshew has always sort of been on an upward trajectory. He made the name for himself with the Jaguars, which wasn't a very good team at the time. He was serviceable at the Colts. He had positive stats, and the fact that he continues to have these opportunities is due to his work ethic, due to the ability that he actually does perform on the field. Now, the only way I would say giving Aiden O'Connell the credit there, or an opportunity there, is the fact that he's been with the Raiders for at least one season, and he sort of understands the playbook a little bit better. But you're right. I think Gardner Minshew, it's not so much that he has the experience. I think he has the upward trajectory, and I think that's what they can take advantage of going into this season.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out in camp and during the preseason. I definitely believe that Minshew gives the Raiders a better chance to win football games. Their defense alone and coaching, I think, will keep them competitive and keep them in a lot of games. But when you look at the AFC West, I mean, the quarterbacks in that division, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, I know Denver's got the rookie out of Oregon who's supposed to be starting, but at the end of the day, you got to have solid quarterback play in order to compete. So shout out to Devante Adams. We're a big fan of you here at the show. We hope you have a great season. Good luck with the Raiders going into the 2024-2025 NFL season. We'll see how it plays out. Keep in mind, this is episode 34. Follow us on social media at Mack B, M-A-C-K, B as in boy, _, at Sports Hop Media. Episode 34 is in the books. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's your boy, Mack B. Solomon's in the building. Holla. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. Subscribe here for all the latest news on hip-hop and sports. It's your boy, Mack B.